Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a really interesting stack of source material in front of us today. Offers a fresh look at the global innovation landscape.
Yeah, we're diving into the Global Startup Ecosystem Report 2025. You'll see it called GSER 2025.
Right, the GSER 2025. And what exactly is this report?
Think of it like a really comprehensive X-ray of the world's startup scene. It's this huge project by Startup Genome.
Startup Genome, okay.
Yeah, they built it on over 10 years of their own independent research. It pulls data from, get this, over 350 global ecosystems.
Wow, 350. Across how many countries?
More than 65 countries, so it's broad. And its whole purpose is, mapping the trends, finding the shifts.
And offering advice.
Exactly. Concrete recommendations for basically everyone involved. Entrepreneurs starting out, investors looking for opportunities, even policymakers trying to grow their local economy.
Got it. And Startup Genome's own mission with putting this massive report together.
Well, they frame it as catalyzing startup success, helping cities, regions, whole countries really grow their ecosystems.
So they can grab their share of, what does the report call it, the new economy.
That's the term they use, yeah. And they actually work directly with governments and organizations all over the world to speed this up, to fuel job creation, fuel growth.
Which feels incredibly relevant right now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And the GSER 2025, it doesn't, gloss over the fact that we're in a tricky spot globally, macroeconomically speaking.
A challenging environment, yeah.
Right. But one of the core messages that comes through is that even with these headwinds, volatile markets, tech revolutions happening, geopolitical stuff shifting.
Innovation and entrepreneurship are still key.
They remain absolutely central. That's the message.
Yeah.
Central to economic development strategies everywhere.
And leading that charge, that innovation surge.
It's AI. Hands down. The report calls artificial intelligence the undisputed engine of startup growth in 2024.
Not just a trend, but the trend.
Pretty much. It's positioned as the force that's really poised to power the next big wave of national economic growth. But only for those countries and regions that can pivot quickly into this AI era.
So there's a sense of urgency there. A need to adapt.
Definitely feels like a race for position. The report even mentions Startup Genome is putting together this global policy action coalition.
A policy coalition? What for?
To really understand and shape what they're calling AI native policies, bringing policy leaders from top ecosystems together.
AI native policies. So specific government approaches for this new landscape.
Exactly. Stuff that's crucial for budgets, for strategies, looking ahead to 2026. They're actively trying to figure out, which policy levers actually work best to support AI startups right now.
That focus on policy really tells you something, doesn't it? How fundamental AI is becoming.
It really does. Now, the report also gives us some, pretty stark global context on how ecosystems are doing overall. It flags a big trend, a decrease in something they measure called ecosystem value.
A decrease across the board.
Across much of the globe in 2025, yeah. They report an aggregate decrease of 31% in ecosystem value globally.
31%. Wow. What exactly is ecosystem value? How do they measure that?
So it's a metric Startup Genome uses. It tries to approximate the economic impact and sort of the health of an ecosystem. It looks at things like the total value of exits, acquisitions, IPOs, early stage funding, late stage funding, all within a specific time frame. So yeah, a 31% aggregate drop points to a pretty significant contraction in activity or maybe valuation.
And how did the top ecosystems fare?
Well, looking at the top 20 from last year, the report says the median change in value was a 24% decrease in 2025.
So even the top weren't immune?
Not at all. Only a few actually saw positive growth. Beijing, LA, Tokyo were up. Paris was flat, but the vast majority down.
That really paints a picture of the global challenge. And funding felt this too, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. The report goes into detail here. Early stage funding, think seed rounds, Series A.
The really foundational stuff.
Exactly. It's contracted sharply since the peak back in 2021, both in the number of deals happening and the total money invested.
And later stage.
Late stage, so Series B and beyond, that's fared a bit better. It contributes more to that overall ecosystem value metric when those big rounds happen. And the data they gathered for 2024 actually suggests a slight reversal of the post-pandemic drop, specifically in those late stage rounds.
Okay, so a tiny glimmer perhaps in late stage, but early stage is definitely feeling the squeeze.
That's the picture the report paints, yeah.
So, okay, we've got this global situation, challenging markets, this dip in ecosystem value, less early stage funding, but then layered right on top is this undeniable surge in innovation, especially AI.
Right. And the report frames this really interestingly, not just as a challenge, but as a, quote, generational opportunity, particularly for emerging ecosystems.
A generational opportunity. How so?
It suggests that by investing strategically, like right across the board, but especially in AI, these newer hubs, these emerging ecosystems, they might actually have a chance to leapfrog the traditional leaders.
Leapfrog.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's not necessarily about trying to clone Silicon Valley, but more about crafting a unique strategy, something purpose-driven, based on their own specific strength, leveraging AI as that accelerator.
Fascinating. So focus on your strengths, invest heavily in AI, and you might just jump ahead.
That seems to be the core argument there, and that really brings us right to our mission for this deep dive today.
Okay, let's define that.
Using this GSER 2025 report as our guide, our map, we want to unpack what it tells you, our listener. Maybe you're an innovator, an entrepreneur, maybe an investor scouting opportunities.
Someone involved in this world.
Right. We want to focus specifically on what this report says about Canada's startup ecosystems. We'll frame it as a high-level overview, drawing only from the report's insights.
To help you understand these regions, right? If you're thinking about where to build your company, where to engage, maybe where to invest your capital, what are the reported strengths? How are they trying to position themselves according to this GSER report?
Precisely. We stick strictly to what's in the report.
Perfect. So let's do it. We'll start maybe with a snapshot. Go west to east across Canada, highlighting the ecosystems mentioned in the report. Pull out some key data points, strategic angles that jump out.
Sounds good. A quick tour first.
And then we circle back, do a deeper dive into the regions where the report gives us more meat, more detail, exploring those strengths and opportunities, again, all based strictly on the GSER 2025.
Let's get started. West to east first.
All right, let's zoom in specifically on Canada now, using this GSER 2025 report as our lens. It does spotlight several regions across the country. So let's take that quick pass, west to east, see who's mentioned and what kind of headlines or stats the report emphasizes for each.
Okay, starting way out west, the report brings up Calgary, and it immediately flags its significant venture capital activity, particularly in 2024.
Yet the report actually pegs Calgary as the fourth largest VC market in Canada that year. That's based on total deal value.
And do they give a number?
They do. $630 million, invested across 63 deals. So for anyone tracking capital flow, that volume, that deal count, it signals quite a bit of activity.
$630 million is substantial, and the report actually points to one deal in particular to kind of illustrate that flow, right?
Exactly. It highlights Neo Financial's Series D round. That was back in November 2024.
And that was a big one.
Huge. $360 million in a single round, which, when you think about it, accounted for more than half of that $630 million total reported for Calgary. It really underscores the capacity for, significant late-stage investment in that ecosystem.
That's a major signal. And beyond the funding numbers, what else does the report flag for Calgary in this initial pass?
It lists what it calls Calgary's strategic sectors, areas where it sees particular strength or focus, which fintech, no surprise, given the Neo deal clean tech, and energy transition. So you see this alignment of capital activity with specific industry focuses they're pushing.
Okay, fintech, clean tech, energy transition. Got it. Moving eastward then.
Next up in the report is Edmonton. Now, interestingly, the report doesn't give us that same kind of overall VC volume number for Edmonton in this overview section, not like it did for Calgary.
Okay, so what does it highlight instead?
It highlights a very clear, very specific strategic focus for the region,
Which is?
positioning Edmonton as a premier North American hub for AI. But not just general AI,
Yeah.
specifically AI within the engineering and construction sectors.
Ah, very niche. AI and engineering and construction. That's specific.
Extremely specific. And the report links this ambition directly to a key initiative they launched in November 2024. It's called the AIXCE.
Construction and engineering, presumably.
Exactly. And it's framed as this deliberate multi-stakeholder effort, not just a government thing.
Okay, so a focus strategy. What else on Edmonton?
Talent. The report notes Edmonton's proactive approach there. It mentions a provincial program aimed at attracting people with entrepreneurial or tech skills, offers them a pathway to permanent residency.
So actively recruiting talent from outside.
Seems like it. And this is apparently coupled with support from a network of local entrepreneurial support organizations, including, and the report uses this phrase, globally recognized accelerators.
Okay, so talent attraction plus support structures. Makes sense. Continuing east.
We land in the Montreal, Quebec City region. And this region gets quite a bit of attention in the report. It actually receives a global ranking in the GSER 2025.
Oh, interesting. Where does Montreal rank?
39th globally. And the report paints a picture of Quebec, the province as a whole, as this innovation powerhouse.
A powerhouse, okay.
With Montreal as the main metropolis, yeah. Hosting something like 85% of the province's startups, according to the report. But, and this is key,
Yes.
the report deliberately emphasizes that the innovation isn't just in Montreal. It talks about this triangle corridor.
A triangle corridor connecting where?
Connecting Montreal, Sherbrooke, and Quebec City. And it says this corridor houses significant tech clusters well beyond just the main city hub. It's a more distributed picture.
Ah, okay. So specific regional strengths within that corridor. Does it mention any?
It gives a quick glimpse. Aerospace technologies are highlighted as a major focus in Montreal itself.
Makes sense. Big aerospace presence there.
Right. Then in Sherbrooke, the strength mentioned is quantum science and technology.
Quantum, okay. Deep tech.
Definitely. And then further down, battery technology and clean tech get a mention. And that's linked to Quebec's broader leadership in clean tech. The report actually notes Quebec is the #1 renewable energy producer in North America.
Wow, okay. So leveraging those energy strengths for battery tech and clean tech. Interesting. Anyone else mentioned in this cross-Canada snapshot?
Well, Toronto-Waterloo does appear in some of the report's comparative data.
Like how?
There's a chart, for example, showing the median change in that ecosystem value metric we talked about.
Yeah.
Across some top global ecosystems. Toronto-Waterloo is on there.
And how did it fare?
It pretty much reflects that general global trend the report noted. Shows a decrease, similar to a lot of other big established hubs.
Okay. But does the report text offer more detail? Like specific programs or players called out for Toronto-Waterloo the way it did for the others?
Not really, no. Not in the narrative highlights section of this GSER 2025 report. So while it's clearly a major Canadian ecosystem and included in data, the report text itself doesn't provide the same level of descriptive detail as it does for Calgary, Edmonton, or the Montreal, Quebec City region.
Got it. So based only on this particular report, our focus for the deeper dive will have to be on those ecosystems where it gives us more to chew on.
Exactly. So that's the snapshot from the GSER 2025. Calgary, strong VC flow, fintech focus. Edmonton, very targeted AI strategy and engineering construction, talent efforts. Montreal, Quebec City, globally ranked, provincial powerhouse, distinct deep tech clusters in that triangle corridor. And Toronto-Waterloo, present in the data but less narrative detail in this specific report. Okay, so we've done the quick west to east flyover based on the GSER 2025. Now let's pivot, as planned, and spend a bit more quality time with those regions where the report offers more, granular detail.
Digging a bit deeper now.
Yeah. And the goal here is really to explore their reported strengths, their opportunities, thinking specifically from the perspective of you, the listener. If you're an innovator, an entrepreneur, maybe an investor, what tangible insights can we pull from this report about where to engage and why?
Makes sense. Where should we start this deeper exploration? Back to Edmonton.
Let's do it. Head back to Edmonton. So as we noted, the report highlights this incredibly specific strategic focus, becoming a premier North American hub for AI and engineering construction.
Right. And that specificity is really striking, isn't it? It's not just a general "we love AI" claim. It's pinpointing this clear intersection of tech and industry where they're actively focusing resources.
Which, if you're an innovator working in AI, or maybe you're in the engineering or construction fields looking to leverage AI, that kind of clarity from an ecosystem, that's got to be valuable.
Oh, hugely valuable. It signals, a deliberate market opportunity and likely a more supportive environment if your venture fits that specific niche.
And the report details the structure supporting this ambition. It talks about dedicated support. What does that involve?
Well, it mentions established funding bodies. Names Startup TNT and Alberta Innovates, both noted for providing capital and also programmatic support, so money and help.
Okay.
It also highlights the presence of 3 distinct accelerators within the Edmonton ecosystem. And again, the report describes these as globally recognized, doesn't name them specifically in this section, but flags their presence.
3 accelerators. And that AIXC strategy is central to this.
Seems to be the backbone, yeah. Launched November 2024. The report specifies it's a collaboration, business, academia, and government all involved.
That level of coordination is interesting, suggests a unified push.
Exactly. And for an entrepreneur, what does that imply? Maybe easier access to potential partners, pilot customers, maybe academic experts right in your field.
Makes sense. And they're tackling talent head on too, right?
Yes, that provincial nominee program we mentioned. The report highlights it's specifically designed to attract individuals with entrepreneurial and tech skills, gives them a pathway to permanent residency.
So if you're an innovator thinking of moving to Canada, or maybe you need to bring in key team members from abroad.
This program seems designed to remove a pretty significant hurdle based on the report's description.
Okay, let's talk about the specific key ecosystem players the report calls out in Edmonton. Who contributes to this support structure?
It gives a few examples. Startup TNT gets mentioned for what sounds like a unique role, building local angel investor networks.
Angel networks, focused locally.
Yeah, anchored locally. And they apparently focus on educating potential new angel investors too, not just connecting existing ones. Plus, facilitating early-stage deals through programs like their flagship TNT Investment Summit.
That's interesting. Actively trying to grow the base of local early-stage capital.
Right. It indicates a deliberate effort to strengthen that very first, often critical, funding stage for new ventures.
That feels important for getting brand new ideas off the ground. Who else?
Then there's Plug and Play Alberta. The report calls them a world-class innovation platform.
Plug and Play is a big name globally.
It is. And the report says their role there is not just attracting tech ventures and investment, but crucially, connecting corporations with startups.
Ah, the corporate connection piece.
Yeah, so that points to opportunities for entrepreneurs, maybe finding corporate partners, getting those crucial first customers, or even engaging with corporate venture arms, potentially speeding up market adoption, scaling.
Especially vital in sectors like engineering and construction, where you often need those big players for pilots and validation.
Exactly. And the third one mentioned is Alberta Innovates. This is highlighted as a major provincial entity.
Provincial government level.
Seems so. Providing funding programs, supporting R&D, helping with commercialization, and fostering industry-led innovation. Sounds like a key source for perhaps non-dilutive funding, early-stage support, strategic guidance from the government side.
Okay, so if we pull all these threads together from the GSER 2025 report, what's the picture for someone considering Edmonton?
You're looking at an ecosystem, according to this report, with a remarkably clear government-backed strategy. It's targeting a high-growth niche within AI engineering and construction. That clarity itself creates a defined market opportunity.
Right.
There's reported support for early-stage funding, specifically through building local angel networks via Startup TNT. There's a direct provincial program designed to help you attract the tech talent you need from abroad.
And the support structures.
You've got established accelerators, plus platforms like Plug and Play connecting you to corporations, and Alberta Innovates offering provincial funding and R&D support. The report really paints a picture of a deliberate, supported build-out around a specific, future-focused sector. Very targeted.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift focus now. Let's head back west briefly and dig deeper into Calgary based on the report.
Sounds good. Calgary. We noted its strength as a significant VC market, especially in fintech.
Yeah, and the report really backs that up with numbers.
Yeah.
Confirms it was the fourth largest VC market in Canada in 2024. That's $630 million across 63 deals. The scale itself indicates a pretty mature funding environment, right? Capacity for quite a few deals.
Definitely. And that Neo Financial Series D, around $360 million, November 2024, the report mentions it again in the deeper dive section. It's worth emphasizing why that's significant. Because a single deal of that sheer size, it demonstrates the ecosystem isn't just doing small early rounds, it can support and attract very large growth rounds. That's a crucial signal if you're an entrepreneur with big scaling ambitions, especially in sectors like fintech, where Calgary is reportedly strong.
It proves the capacity is there for major growth capital.
Exactly. And the report adds another interesting data point here. It notes that a global fintech firm, Veripark, set up a new downtown office, and that Calgary Economic Development supported this move.
So attracting international players, too.
Yeah, suggesting the ecosystem isn't just growing homegrown companies, but it's also successful in bringing in established international firms to build a local presence, which, enriches the talent pool, the network.
Right. Now, beyond the big fintech numbers, the report reiterated clean tech and energy transition as key strategic sectors. How does it elaborate on those?
Well, it doesn't just list them. It frames them as areas that are genuinely ripe for innovation and investment. It implies Calgary is leveraging its deep historical strengths and infrastructure from the traditional energy industry.
but pointing them towards future solutions.
Exactly, directing them towards clean tech and the broader energy transition. And it specifically mentions Foresight Alberta as a key player supporting these efforts in the clean tech space there, providing expertise, strengthening that specific part of the ecosystem.
So dedicated support for clean tech innovation. What about the overall environment?
The GSER 2025 describes Calgary as having a collaborative environment, which, as you know, is often a critical ingredient for a healthy ecosystem. It mentions the Calgary Innovation Coalition.
What's their role?
The report says it acts as a unified voice for the community, suggesting stakeholders are trying to work together, pull in the same direction.
And Calgary Economic Development gets another mention.
Yes, specifically called out for its role in attracting investment, like with Vera Park, but also fostering trade connections and helping grow the workforce. So if you're an entrepreneur, these are the types of organizations that can potentially open doors for you, to capital, to markets, to talent.
Essential functions. Any other key players mentioned?
The report includes CDL Rockies, that's Creative Destruction Lab. It highlights their model, which focuses on accelerating the commercialization of science, bringing together experienced entrepreneurs, investors, scientists.
So strength in translating deep tech or scientific discoveries into actual businesses.
That's what it points to, yeah. Strength in science commercialization. And it also mentions Global 500, which operates as the Alberta Accelerator by 500. They focus on accelerating early-stage companies, so support right at the beginning of the journey, too.
Okay. And there's one other factor mentioned, cost.
Right. The report makes a point of mentioning the low cost of doing business as a reason to consider Calgary. Now, it doesn't give us specific comparison figures in this text.
But just listing it suggests it's a reported advantage.
Exactly. Suggests it's seen as a benefit of operating there, maybe compared to other major hubs.
Okay, so let's synthesize the Calgary picture based purely on the GSER 2025 report. For you, the innovator, what are we seeing?
We're seeing an ecosystem with, according to this report, demonstrated access to significant venture capital, highlighted particularly in fintech and capable of supporting very large funding rounds. The NEO deal proves that.
Plus clear sector focus.
Yeah, a clear strategic focus on key sectors like clean tech and energy transition, offering specific market opportunities, often linked to the region's existing industrial base but looking forward.
And the environment.
The report emphasizes collaboration among players. You've got organizations specifically tasked with attracting investment, helping with market access, growing talent, and accelerators supporting both early-stage and science-based ventures. Plus, that potential advantage of lower operating costs. It paints a picture of an ecosystem using its capital strength, its sector expertise, and a collaborative approach to drive growth.
All right, final deep dive stop. Let's head back east again to the Montreal, Quebec City region. The report gave Montreal that strong global ranking, #39, and called Quebec overall an innovation powerhouse. Let's unpack that.
Yeah, the report offers quite a bit of detail on what it calls a province-wide ecosystem. It really emphasizes the Quebec government's commitment here.
How so?
It highlights this ambitious plan, the National Technology Initiative, and it puts a big number on it. $7.3 billion in planned investment over 5 years.
$7.3 billion over 5 years.
That's the figure in the report, that scale of public investment. It signals a really deep long-term commitment to fostering innovation right across the province.
And it's definitely not just a Montreal story, based on what you said earlier.
No, the report makes that clear. That emphasis on the Triangle Corridor connecting Montreal, Sherbrooke, Quebec City is key. And it also mentions the existence of these regional acceleration spaces called ERACs spread across the province.
ERACs, regional acceleration spaces.
Yeah, so this model seems distributed, supporting specific clusters in different locations, but keeping them connected. It indicates a deliberate strategy to leverage distinct regional strengths, not just rely on the main city. It feels like a networked approach to innovation.
Okay, let's get into those specific cluster strengths the report highlights. These seem really important for innovators looking for specialized environments. What did it say about Montreal specifically?
In Montreal itself, the big focus highlighted is aerospace. The report calls out a space aero as a unique hub.
A space aero. What makes it unique according to the report?
It's described as having this dense concentration of industry leaders, a highly collaborative ecosystem that spans the whole value chain, R&D, commercialization, And critically, it mentions a focus on sustainable aviation.
Sustainable aviation, that's a specific, forward-looking angle within a big established industry.
Exactly. So if you're in aerospace tech, particularly sustainable aviation, the report signals deep industry expertise and a very concentrated network there.
Okay. And moving down the Triangle Corridor to Sherbrooke.
The focus shifts squarely to quantum science and technology. Deep tech territory.
Right. What's the setup there?
The report describes the District U Innovation Zone, calls it a highly collaborative environment. It brings together academia, startups, industry players, and its location, its proximity to cutting-edge research places like the Institut Quantique, is highlighted as a major plus.
So, close ties to the research side.
Very close. And the report doesn't just say it's good, it emphasizes Quebec's position as a major global place for quantum R&D, and it gives a concrete example to back this up.
Which is?
The French quantum computing company Pascal. They opened their North American-based factory right there in Sherbrooke in 2023.
Wow, having a major international player like Pascal set up their factory there, that's a pretty strong validation of that cluster strength, isn't it?
It's a huge external validation, yeah. Really reinforces the report's claim about it being a major global hub for quantum.
Okay, so aerospace in Montreal, quantum in Sherbrooke, any others mentioned?
Yes, the report also mentions a battery tech clean tech cluster. This one is located near Trois-Rivières.
Trois-Rivières, okay. And how is that positioned?
It's explicitly linked to Quebec's broader, established global leadership in clean tech. Remember, the report noted Quebec is North America's top renewable energy producer.
Right.
So this cluster seems to be building on those natural resource advantages, the existing industrial base, but focusing specifically on future energy solutions, battery technology, related clean tech.
Makes sense. What about the overall vibe, the ecosystem itself?
The report touches on the collaborative ecosystem in the region, describes it as tight-knit. It mentions the role of the French-speaking culture and also a high quality of life as factors contributing to its appeal, particularly for attracting and retaining talent.
Quality of life is a big draw.
Can be, definitely. And it needs that government and various partners provide crucial infrastructure support across the board.
Does the report mention any challenges for the region?
It does, briefly. It just acknowledges the uncertain global economic climate and also mentions trade tensions with the U.S. as factors that, impact the ecosystem. It's a realistic touch.
Okay, let's look at the key ecosystem players the report specifically calls out for the Montreal-Quebec City region. There seem to be quite a few.
There are several. It mentions Montreal International. Their focus is described as attracting and retaining talent and foreign investment. Key functions.
Right.
Then there's Investissement Québec. This sounds like a major provincial player. The report highlights its broad mandate, supporting innovation, growth, accelerating R&D, even involved in responsible energy governance. Clearly a big force driving many of these initiatives.
Seems central. Who else on the investment side?
Réseau Capital is noted. That's the VC and Private Equity Association for Quebec, so bringing together all the stakeholders in the investment chain.
Okay.
And then there's S-Space CDPQ. This was described really interestingly as the central hub where VCs converge. The report explicitly calls it Canada's largest VC community, housing 26 different funds.
26 funds, all in one place. That sounds like a unique structural advantage.
It really does. Having that concentration of venture capital connections, physically co-located potentially, that's a significant point for entrepreneurs seeking funding. Makes networking potentially much more efficient.
Definitely a differentiator. What about research and specialized support?
Big one here, Mila. The report specifically calls it out. Founded by the famous AI pioneer Yoshua Bengio. It's described as a globally recognized research institute specializing in deep learning.
Mila is world-renowned in AI.
Absolutely. So if you're an innovator in AI, especially deep learning, the report signals that having access to a world-leading research hub like Mila right there offers, unparalleled opportunities, collaboration, talent pipeline, cutting-edge knowledge.
Huge advantage for AI startups. Any sector-specific support mentioned?
Yes. CTS, Health Technology Catalyst, is mentioned. They focus on accelerating health tech startups, offering tailored support, access to investors, and importantly, a focus on global market entry. So specialized vertical industry support is present.
Good to see that niche support. And events.
Lastly, it lists Startup Fest. Described as a global gathering of entrepreneurs, founders, investors, mentors, points to a vibrant event scene which is often crucial for making connections, finding partners, getting visibility.
Okay. Let's synthesize the Montreal-Quebec City region then. Based purely on the GSER 2025 report. What's the picture for an innovator?
It's a globally ranked ecosystem, #39 for Montreal. It has substantial committed government backing. That $7.3 billion investment plan is huge. It features clearly defined, strong, deep tech clusters. Aerospace in Montreal, quantum in Sherbrooke, clean tech, battery tech near Trois-Rivières. These are connected through that triangle corridor concept and have distributed support.
And the funding and research?
Access to venture capital seems highly concentrated and accessible through the S-Space CDPQ hub. And you have world-leading research institutions like Mila in AI, specialized accelerators like CTS for health tech, and major ecosystem events like Startup Fest. It paints a picture of a rich environment with deep academic ties, strong government backing, and very concentrated expertise in specific advanced technologies.
So throughout this whole deep dive, drawing just from this GSER 2025 report, we've really tried to translate these facts, these figures, these names of organizations into actionable insights for you, the innovator listening in.
Yeah, asking that "so what" question. For instance, what does Calgary's reported status fourth largest VC market in Canada, big rounds like Neo Financials, what does that actually mean if you're an entrepreneur in fintech or maybe clean tech or energy transition and you're actively looking for investment?
It suggests, based on this report, a capital-rich environment, right? One with demonstrated capacity for later growth stage funding in those sectors.
Exactly. Or how does Edmonton's very explicit government-backed strategy becoming a North American hub for AI, specifically in engineering and construction, how does that combine with its talent program and support orgs inform your decision if you happen to be building an AI company targeting those industrial applications?
It points, according to the report, to an ecosystem that is deliberately cultivating your specific niche, with tangible support mechanisms seemingly already in place.
Right. And then how does the Montreal, Quebec City regions package the global ranking, that massive provincial investment, the specific deep tech clusters in aerospace, quantum clean tech, that unique VC hub at S-Space CDPQ, access to research like Emila? How does all that shape the opportunities available to you if you're working in those advanced tech fields?
It indicates, based on the report, a really powerfully supported ecosystem. Deep expertise, significant capital access, strong academic links, all concentrated within those specific high-tech domains.
So the GSER 2025 report, through the specific details it chooses to provide about these Canadian ecosystems, it offers you a really valuable snapshot. Their strategic priorities, their reported strengths, the tangible support structures the report mentions, and how they seem to be actively positioning themselves on that global innovation map.
Yeah, give you clues, doesn't it? Clues about the landscape, the key players to know, the capital flow patterns, the specific sector opportunities that might exist in each location, all drawn directly from this one comprehensive source.
It really serves as an essential starting point, doesn't it, for understanding the dynamics within these quite diverse regions and figuring out how they might align with your own entrepreneurial path or your investment goals.
Exactly. And as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the GSER 2025 specific view on Canada, let's just briefly circle back to that broader context the report laid out right at the beginning.
You mean the AI piece?
Yeah. It identifies AI as this undeniable engine for the future economy. And it stresses that ecosystems really need to make strategic shifts to capitalize on this, suggesting that the early movers, the ones who adapt quickly, will gain a significant advantage.
And it even put forward that idea, didn't it, that AI creates this generational opportunity for ecosystems that maybe weren't the traditional global leaders, a chance to potentially leapfrog the established hubs if they make smart, comprehensive investments right now.
Right. So here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with today, based purely on synthesizing what we pulled from this GSER 2025 report about Canada.
Okay.
Considering the GSER 2025 specifically highlighted Edmonton's clear strategy around AI in engineering and construction, and it emphasized the Montreal, Quebec City region's strength as a major global player in quantum, plus a powerhouse in AI research through Mila. And it noted that significant investment activity in Calgary's fintech sector, which itself is obviously being hugely transformed by AI.
Putting those pieces together.
How might these distinct reported strengths in AI and deep tech across different regions, combined with the highlighted investment flows and the government support initiatives, we discussed how might all that collectively position Canada as a whole in this rapidly evolving global innovation landscape that's so heavily influenced by AI.
And I suppose the follow-on question for the listener.
Exactly. What specific, perhaps even synergistic opportunities does that Canadian mosaic, that collection of different strengths reported in the GSER 2025, create for you looking ahead? Depending, of course, on your specific sector and where you might choose to engage within these diverse Canadian ecosystems.
That's a complex question, and a critical one, really, for anyone trying to navigate the future of innovation in Canada based on reports like this.
It is indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the GSER 2025 report's particular perspective on Canada's startup scene.
Thanks for tuning in. We really hope the insights gleaned strictly from this report help inform your own journey wherever it takes you.